training was,
Sorry about that.
sorry, let me do this because I have to say yes to the recording. Okay. When the first citywide training was offered to educational institutions, UT Health in San Antonio registered 10 participants. By virtue of being faculty at UT Health, I was asked to be one of the facilitators for the cohort after they finish their 6-week training when they are having the monthly meetings. This cohort of 10 was very successful in meeting every month, which was very, very interesting and heartening. I was at our second meeting, I mentioned that the educational institutions that participated in this would be gifted, if they want, with trees that we can plant. And I know they had done that in one of the other institutions, and I thought this was an interesting thing. So I mentioned it to the group, and immediately it caught on. They said, yes, we must do this. Maybe we can create a compassion grove. And the idea of combining tree planting and the compassion grove was very readily accepted by the administration of UT as well. Dr. Robert Estrell, who is a transplant surgeon and vice dean for academic affairs there, became the prime mover for this project. And he contacted the grounds people there, who immediately bought into that. We received 8 trees from the city as a gift. 4 more were added by the grounds department. So in total, 12 trees were planted. And we didn't create a grove, we created a path because of the water requirements, when the path was easier to do because water was readily available there. There are 5 schools at UT, and each school, medical school, dental school, nursing school, school of the associated sciences, and the graduate medical education school, all of them participated, and the deans of the schools sponsored a sign that would be put right by the trees that they selected. Just as an aside, the dental school selected the big tooth maple. And so all of them participated. And just this February, we had, this April, we had the opening ceremony after trying to do this for nearly, 2 years with COVID and not being able to get together and everything. And we had the opening ceremony, and it was graced by our mayor, Ron Nierenberg. The future plans are to do a compassion day every year, and to do something really campus-wide that will remind everybody about the path. And also, the cohort members have grown since that time. We have had 3 more people who got trained. So it is really disseminating the idea, the information, and the enthusiasm of those who have taken CIT in wanting, to do something like this. And
Rajam,
every school, the representative is participating.
Yeah, Rajam, weren't most of the members of that 10-person cohort also teaching doctors?
Yes.
And
they're all faculty.
Right. Yeah. Did that then get integrated somehow into like their curriculum and into the classes, or?
That's correct. In the medical school, one of the cohort members, who is also one of the associate deans in the at UT, he started a course. It's a very interesting course. It's not the CIT course, but a course where the residents in training during COVID, the burnout was unbelievable in the medical community. And you all have heard about that among the nurses, among the physicians, and among the trainees, the residents and the fellows. And they went through a year-long course about this. And the details of that hasn't come out yet from him, but this is one of the very good outcomes. And in the dental school, they started the initiative of offering a short presentation about CIT to, to the groups that invite them right there.
Thank you, Rajam, for sharing that with us. It was amazing too. On that first institute, we had 85% of all of our educational institutions across all of SA participate, 100% of our colleges and universities, and it was UT Health. We'd planned like 2 representatives from each, and they begged for 8 more seats. So their cohort was 10 and not just the 2, which I think says something about UT Health and their leadership. I'm going to move now to a clergy colleague, Justin Lindstrom. He's usually here on Thursday mornings too, serves at Christ Episcopal. Justin, you're about to be certified at the end of this month. You're in this year's institute. How have you integrated your compassion learnings?
Thank you, Anne. As a clergy person, I always thought that I was compassionate. It's a given, I think, for clergy that we just wear that title. But going through the training, I've learned I need to be intentionally compassionate. I've got to think about it every day, heart, mind, and soul, right? And so that's been the greatest learning for me, is just to be more intentional about what it means to live a compassionate life, to have a compassionate ministry, to be a compassionate person, and ultimately to lead with compassion. I think that's been a huge piece for me. A couple of things that have happened at Christ Episcopal Church. We have a outreach ministry called Sidewalk Saturday, where we serve friends from the community. That's the first thing. We call them friends from the community. They're not clients. Right? That's a compassionate way of approaching our fellow citizens. They're friends from the community. Ultimately now, many of the people who come to Sidewalk Saturday call Sidewalk Saturday their church home. It's become a spiritual place. It's not just a place for folks to receive food or to receive clothing or toiletries, but they receive community. I think it's because of the compassion work that we've done that has taken place. A couple things that we've done that are very specific is that we all wear name tags now. We used to hand out numbers and call numbers for people to come up and receive the bags of food. And now we do everything by name, and everyone wears a name tag so that we can call each other by name and get to know each other and build relationships. That's compassion at work. The other thing is that we used to put all the food into bags and just hand the bags out. Now we set out, we have bags that have some staple items in them, like cereal and flour, cornmeal, canned goods, that kind of thing. But we have 5 or 6 very long tables of a variety of food, fresh foods, proteins that people can pick up, other kinds of breads, that kind of thing. And we call it our market, and people can shop just like you and I would shop at HEB or our local grocery store. And what we have found, really the very week that we did that, treated people with dignity and respect and gave them the same choice that we have every day, people immediately started opening up about their lives and sharing with us the things that they're struggling with. We also brought in a social worker onto the campus every Saturday morning so that we could begin to do some light casework and get people connected to the resources that are available in the city, and walk with them in the journey of their recovery, journey of their pursuing their hopes and dreams and their goals, but never have we put our goals upon them. It's always been listening to them, to hear what their goals are, and to walk with them into that new life that they want for themselves. So it has changed our outreach ministry in so many other ways. I could talk forever, but Ann gave me 3 to 4 minutes. So I encourage you, if you haven't done the CIT training, I encourage you to do so. It is life-changing, and it can change how you interact with people every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. There are 3 components in the education: self-compassion, compassion with others, and a systems approach with compassion. I'm wondering, Justin, especially like with Sidewalk Saturday, and I think you've already given us an example within it, but looking at that as a system, what was one tweak in that system that you learned from those compassion skills? I can think of at least one I heard.
Yeah, for sure. It was the choice of food. That was a huge piece. We've had a food pantry for 26 years. And this was the first time that we gave people choice for the bulk of the food that they receive on a Saturday morning. And overnight changed we went from being a transactional type of outreach, here's your food, thanks for coming, that kind of thing, to a transformational relationship. That food just happened to be one part of what we were doing, not the main thing. That was the biggest piece.
Thanks, Justin. Also, during these last 2 years, we've had guest briefings on police reform, and our concern here to be, the best that we can be. And so during this past year's Institute, we had some participation from within the police department. So this morning, I want to introduce you to Officer Joel Pope. He's been a part of that, working at the Academy. Joel, can you tell us a little bit about how your compassion learnings were integrated within your context?
Absolutely. Good morning, Ann. And I'm assuming you can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay, got to check that first.
And you know what, Joel? I'm going to interrupt.
I understand. I got it.
Because I just see that one of our founding fellows, and actually the convener of the Institute, has popped in. Mayor Nuremberg is here. Good morning, Mayor. Good to see you at the intersection.
Hey, good morning, everybody. And I hate to get in the way of Officer Pope.
Well, he just started, so it was a good pause, and I know that you only got a couple minutes.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being on and for giving me just a couple minutes here. It's great to see everybody. And I'm so excited to see the convening, because Ann has informed me that this is sort of the pre-launch to the relaunch of the Compassion Institute. So very excited to see the mission grow and the capacity for compassion in our community grow. I continue to talk about it, Ann, wherever I am, in terms of how we are demonstrating the movement of compassionate cities through the Institute training. So, and everyone is always shocked at how far it's already gone. And we've only just begun. So great job, everybody.
I also understand, I want to ask you how you have integrated the learnings in your everyday context, because you were one of the first to take the training after signing the resolution. I also know that you're now the lead for the Compassion Institute of the United States Conference of Mayors. We're the only city so far that has a Compassion Institute. So we have come a long way, and also leading the country as well. So more down to earth on this, though, Mayor, how have you integrated these learnings in your everyday leadership?
Well, so I'll just give 2 examples. One of them very evident and visible, and the other one probably that you're not so quite aware of. And I'll start with that last part. You mentioned self-compassion is an important part of compassion training, and I think that one of the messages that we have for folks across the community over the last couple of years is to give yourself some grace and allow yourself to grieve a little bit, or to examine, reflect a little bit about the hidden trauma that you're experiencing. It's been a traumatic 2 years for all of us in different ways, and to allow yourself the space to understand that trauma and to deal with it is really important. So, many of you know my release, my stress release is a workout regimen, and I no longer make excuses for that. In fact, my team here at the office understands that it's part of my mental health regimen. And so if they see me leave for an hour in the middle of the day because I found an hour somewhere, they encourage it. If they don't see that I've had it, they program it. But it's really important for me. And I've come to know over the last 2 years of the pandemic, while the workouts are different than they were when I was in my 20s, they're as or more important than they ever have been. And in fact, I never missed a workout during the entire pandemic, and I'm not ashamed to say that. It was very important for me to stay balanced and stable during those last 2 years. The second part of this is the more obvious part, and that is to understand that our community was grieving during those very heightened parts of the pandemic, and that we needed to speak to individual families. That was a primary motivator of getting on the air every day during those COVID briefings. And if you remember, the judge and I would talk about pretty much the same things every night. Give the latest updates on what COVID was doing in our community, give the health guidance that we were getting from our public health professionals. But there was something really important that I thought, given the compassion training, that I wanted to start the evening with, and that was an ask for prayer for our neighbors who have lost loved ones, or who have them in the hospital, or those who are in some way caring for neighbors who were sick. It wasn't natural at first, I will give you that, but once we started doing that and starting the evening that way, I think it had a significant measure in allowing us to connect directly with folks in the living room, directly with people in their homes. And that was a period of time, if you remember, we were most socially isolated. So for me and for the judge to be able to connect on a personal level, asking for prayer from our community, was, I think, a lesson learned from the Compassion Institute training, and something that isn't obvious for politicians or people who are going on TV when you're speaking just to a camera.
Thank you. And in compassion, we know that you only had these 5 minutes. So I'm going to release you and thank you. If there's one thing that you would encourage this batch of leaders to do, what would it be at this moment?
Well, certainly take the training if you haven't already, but tell someone in your professional life about it. I think we believe that we all understand compassion instinctively and how to exercise it, but I don't think that's actually true. I think you have to really be conscious about it and work at it. And so to let somebody in your professional circle know about the training is really important. It brings that awareness of the fact that it brings some awareness of the fact that compassion is a skill as much as it is a human value.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm gonna let you go because I know you've got City Council Day, and Officer Joel has been waiting so compassionately in the wings. Hey, Joel, you still there?
I certainly am. How are you guys doing? So I know we're on time schedule here. So if you're okay with it, I'll get right into it.
All right.
Okay. So as you know, that our cohort here at the Training Academy consisted of 3 officers that attended CIT. And while many of the things that we learned in CIT we do apply, one of the ones that we found very, very helpful and kind of a immediate action item was the foundational concept of the need for human connection. That's one of the foundational concepts that if you do take CIT, you're going to learn about right away. And that human connection really is huge in policing, right? So we get all of the cadets right when they come into the police academy. So we get an opportunity to start this process early, which I'm very grateful for. One of the things that we use in that foundational concept that we learned was talking about trauma-informed policing. And for those of y'all that are not aware of that, that is educating those in the law enforcement arena how trauma affects the victims and the folks that we serve. And that's a huge component in compassion, because if you don't understand how that trauma affects the person that you're rendering services to, your services may be off the mark or lackluster, despite your best intentions. So we do use that concept very, very frequently to teach cadets. We found that once the officer or the cadet gains an understanding of how to be compassionate and empathetic strategically with those that we serve, we see that their change in the way that they police exudes itself by their ability to affect change in the systems. So we really teach them strongly and encourage them strongly to individually be that change. Individually take and look at the system that we have currently in place and tell yourself, how can I be a change inside that system by being compassionate and using CIT related concepts? I'll give you a quick example of one of the things that we teach the cadets that alludes to that. For example, uniforms, right? We all show up in a uniform and we talk to cadets and we ask them, what does that uniform represent to you? And then we go into it a little bit further on in this 4-hour block and talk about the different representations of what a police uniform is to different segments of society. And boy, the conversations are just fantastic when you start making that connection. Then we encourage them after that to, when they go out into the field, use that concept that you heard in there in the 4 hours to make a change in the system. What does that change look like? Well, most of the time we're reactive, right? You call the police, you have a problem, we show up and we try to solve it to the best of our ability. So we encourage them and give them ideas and places where they can do a non-incident contact in police uniform. And what that is briefly is an incident where we show up in the uniform. It is not related to law enforcement. For example, maybe a food pantry or the Boys and Girls Club to stop by for a visit. And we really just try to encourage that connection with the community in a non-incident, non-law enforcement manner. So we hope that example that they use will really help connect people and make that human connection better, at least from the side of the police department. So
that's great, Joel. Do you have any folks from the police department coming to this year's Institute?
I am not certain, but you know me, I invite everybody that'll listen. I think you know that about me. So I've got some invitations out, and of course, with schedules, I still pop my head in and say, don't forget to sign up. Don't forget to sign up. So I highly encourage those who are on this call who have not done it to definitely take the course.
Not many of us can put Pope on our shirt. Anyway, you could always send somebody in Rome, a shirt like that. That would be real interesting and fun. So it is 8:31. We're not stopping because we have one more who's going to become an Institute Fellow this year, Verone Blue. And but those of you who do need to leave at 8:30, we totally understand, and we're grateful for your attendance, but we're going to continue on. And I can't say and encourage you any more than I already have. If you're not able to go, then I encourage you to at least find 1 to 2 other people among those that you serve and lead, who are leaders as well, that you can encourage them to be a part of this institute. Because if each place where we're serving has even, it's that whole salt and leaven, if it has a little bit, and some folks in there working like Joel is working, that's how things change. It's never a doubt that a small group of, humanity can change the world, because indeed that's the only thing that ever has. So while we hear from Verone, I encourage you to be thinking about those one or two other persons specifically, if it's not you, specifically who you can talk to. So Verone, thank you for being so compassionately patient. Tell us about where you serve and how your compassion learnings have been integrated in your work.
I serve as one of the things I do is I work with the Rafa cohort, and we connect together to bring change to our community. I wanted to really personally thank you, Dr. Ann, for inviting me to participate in the CIT trainings. I remember I was like, oh, I don't have time to do this. And you sent me a personal note, and you said, I think you should do this. And I'm really grateful that you did. I really have to say to Justin about your food bank that, not to take it for granted, we have a very small food bank that we do in our community. And last Saturday morning, this lady came out and she said, I was on my way to Walmart to steal food for my family. And she said, I walk out here and I see a sign that says free food. And that's the compassion, and that's the manifestation of what we do when we love our city. And it takes time to do a food bank, and it's hard work, but the rewards and the what it does for a community. It was amazing to talk to that lady as she talked about getting food. Imagine stealing food for your family. So it was the CIT training was the perfect next level training after completing Bridges to Care, because it focused on 3 levels of understanding: self-cultivation, relating to others, and systems management. How do we navigate working within a large network, such as a cohort? And I love this quote that was in the curriculum. It says, everything we depend on for our well-being and happiness itself depends on an extended network of other people. And that's what the power of the Bridges to Care cohorts. It's about the collective power of the other groups, of other people. And as we were able to assimilate the systems management concepts as we led the Rafa cohort, 8 individual churches coming together to bring meaningful change to our community. And we realized that 2 congregations had therapists and counselors who were compassionate, but they were also excellent, great speakers and presenters. We had 1 congregation that was excellent with social media, 2 congregations that were great in the area of support. They showed up to everything, attended every meeting, and they brought that to the table. And then we had a couple congregations that were good with ideas and creating structure and order and flow. But all of us had this one thing in common. We love our community, and we wanted to see it thrive, and we wanted to see it flourish. And so when everyone brought our individual systems together, we were able together as a cohort to accomplish since March 19th of last year. We hosted 2 vaccine clinics for our community. We did a spiritual and mental Zoom conference. We hosted in our group, within our 8 churches, 65 trauma talks via Zoom. We had 2 community workshops on suicide and grief and loss. We provided in our cohort. We have 6 therapists, licensed professionals. We provided professional mental health care services to 43 individuals in our community. Imagine this little group to 43. The response time when we find out about someone, we contacted them within 15 minutes to 4 hours. Quickly, we talked to people. I'll give you a good story. One of our wellness champions, who was trained by Bridges to Care, she saw on Facebook that a friend of hers was going through a rough time with grief. So she reached out to her and asked her, could one of our therapists call her? Would she like to talk? And she said, absolutely. And so one of our therapists was able to call her. And that was just on Facebook. But that's our community. That's where we meet. And so, Rafa, you know, I told you about the team of mental health that we have. And we have, now we are working with life coaching, because mental health deals with your past. But now, and life coaching takes you, it's future focused. So we're going to be holding free life coaching seminars and stuff for our community. We are watching our community change because of the systems we are all engaging. We are all working together, and we've made donations and all that. We have a community fund. This all came out of the training of Bridges to Care, Compassionate Institute, the systems engagement, Compassion for a City. We have a community fund that we use to compensate therapists as they see and talk to people in our community. And that's also, and so it's amazing because of the compassion of our team and the training from Bridges to Care, Rafa is able to bring change to its community and enhance the well-being and collective flourishing of our community. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of the CIT training, working together with Bridges to Care. Every community needs, we all need to take the training on CIT, and I so strongly encourage that, and Bridges to Care, to create wellness champions who will change our city. We are in for a marvelous transformation as we continue and walk with our mayor and work with Dr. Ann and people who are leading this charge for a compassionate city. I don't want to be anywhere else other than San Antonio at this point in my life. This is the place to be.
Thanks, Barone. That's so exciting. And I've got 8:39, but I want to open up these last 5 minutes to just conversation. If others who are here want to ask Justin or Joel or Verone. Rajam had to leave. She had a doctor's appointment, so she's not with us, but I'd like to open that up. Side note, and we'll put the link in again, the registration cost, we don't even really refer to it as that, is on a compassionate sliding scale. And so it's been decided that the value of it is $250 in dollars, but the sliding scale is all the way to $10. So there's like no reason that someone shouldn't be a part of this because of that financial commitment. And we've also had people who are able to do more than $250 who have done that, a lot more, so that others can attend. All those dollars go to those who facilitate. That's it. So, and it's a very compassionate respect that we do so. So the facilitators are all certified and they are compensated through the registration donations. And that's really important. And I wanted you to know that. So there's no reason financially that anybody should not attend. So Beverly has her hand up. Go, Beverly.
I immediately had to raise my hand. So, and let me just say this, only because as you know, long story short, certainly deal with a lot of families where I know that we all on this call may not think that $10 is a lot. What I want to be able to do is to offer immediately in support of this. I want to be able to provide some funding for you guys so that you can let people come who cannot afford it. Okay, because I know not everybody can do this. And I want everybody to be able to have access to it. So I want to go offline with you and figure out something so we can certainly sponsor people so that they can come and that the money will not be a deterrent for them.
Thank you, Beverly. Do you have a team of folks who've been a part of the Institute, or are you sending a team?
We came. If you remember last time, I unfortunately was in Washington yesterday. And so I missed it. I'm so sorry that I did. but yes, our whole team came last time. And so I just think it was just great training. We all enjoyed it, and it was just great. So, so I want to be able to make sure we spread that. And I just listening to Pastor Blue, I just love you. You're a great way to start the day. Your energy, your spirit is just fabulous. Thank you for that gift. So yes, so it was so good, and I want everybody who wants to come and can come to be able to come.
Thank you, Beverly, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, please do.
Are there other comments or questions this morning? Even nuts and bolts about the Institute? I did put into chat that there are 2 parts to the Institute. There's the educational part, which you've heard as CIT mentioned by folks, compassionate integrity training. That part's required. And that's this summer, once a week. And there are sessions either morning, afternoon, or evening. So you have options, people have options. That's required. The Institute, though, then runs for a whole year, June through May. And so the second portion we call CIA, Compassion in Action. It's the experiential component. Cohorts meet once a month for an hour to work at their ideas, maybe partner together to strengthen the efforts to integrate into all of our community. So this is really where the strength starts to happen in terms of citywide, is when, especially as leaders, we start to integrate these things systemically. And that's optional, but to become an Institute fellow, you need to do the entire year. So those are the nuts and bolts. I think that the link that has all the details in the registration in it, I think Karen, our registrar, put those into chat. Any last thing at 8:44? This was like our fullest one, but a good one. Well, thank you all for coming.